Thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing. Hamas has just made a potentially major reversal during the ongoing efforts in the Palestinian unity deal with Fatah. Though the terror group is still refusing to dismantle its army, Hamas's leader is now saying that all its soldiers should fall under the umbrella of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. This is quite a different message than the one we've been getting until now. So far, Hamas has refused to waver even slightly on the issue of keeping its massive army intact. But shifting it to the P.L.O, which is mostly dominated by President Abbas's Fatah government and headed by Abbas himself, is almost a total 180. Israel will not negotiate with a unified Palestinian government unless it dissolves Hamas's army and recognizes Israel's right to exist. But we're still very far from meeting those conditions. Complicating the deal is the fact that another Arab nation has just entered the fray in a major way. Qatar, possibly Hamas's biggest supporter and financier, has just confirmed it will build a new presidential headquarters in Gaza for the forthcoming government. It's a very significant and symbolic gesture, indicating Qatar may have plans to keep itself in all Palestinian affairs. The PA is set to officially take over control of all Gaza border crossings in less than a week, making reconciliation a very concrete reality in the near future. Leaders and members of the Lahava Anti-Assimilation group were arrested earlier this week on charges relating to harassment and assault, only to be released to house arrest days later. Police, in fact, tried to detain the 15 suspects for longer, but the Jerusalem Magistrate Court forced their hand. Speaking to Arutz 7 News, Lahava leader Benzi Gopstein's wife, Anat, accused the police of obsessively and psychotically hounding her husband. She did finish her comments with a thank you, though, that probably no one was expecting. Anat said that, quote, "Overall, we want to thank the police. Organizations spend a lot of money on advertising, but just yesterday we received 16 referrals regarding girls who unfortunately are dating Arabs, and their families are calling for help. We're the ones who come and give them that assistance," end quote. The Lahava group is considered to be a fringe Jewish organization, which critics argue is racist. Police arrested 15 members of the group on Sunday as part of an ongoing investigation into the group for threatening Israeli Arab men who were involved romantically with Jewish women. In a surprising move, the Palestinian town of Qalqilia in the West Bank has just erected a huge monument of late Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. The statue portrays the deceased in a bowler hat and pointing a rifle in the air. Saddam, who during his reign sent Scud missiles at Israel in 1991 and was an ardent supporter of the Palestinians, especially during the 2000 Intifada, remains a popular figure in the Palestinian community. A small group called the Arab Liberation Front built the monument, and while the city refused to comment, they clearly don't disapprove of its erection, since the governor, who was in the ruling Fatah party, was in attendance at the opening ceremony. The Arab Liberation Front has erected similar monuments in other Palestinian towns as well. New reports reveal that the Israeli government has secretly been employing the aid of the United States-based law firm in the fight against B.D.S across Europe, North America, and elsewhere. The Israeli Security Cabinet 2 years ago charged the Strategic Affairs Ministry with coordinating the battle against delegitimization. Millions of shekels have been poured into this initiative, and now the evidence goes to show that they hired the Chicago firm Sidley Austin for, quote, preparing documents and legal opinions and handling legal proceedings to the extent needed battling the B.D.S phenomenon, in particular concerning calls and initiatives to impose boycotts and sanctions against Israeli companies and businesses, as well as against foreign companies that have business operations in Israel, end quote. They've been paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for their work thus far. Exact details of the work that has been done is not yet known, but while many are lauding the efforts as a government finally responding to the threat, critics are saying this serves as a good example of the, quote, danger of a slippery slope in the secrecy shrouding Israeli anti-BDS activity in the world, and that, quote, it is deeply worrying that the military terminology used by senior officials in the Strategic Affairs Ministry is being used in the fight against civilians abroad who criticize the state of Israel, end quote. One thing is for certain, though, that Israel is definitely taking the international BDS movement seriously. Every year, tens of thousands of African migrants make their way to the Middle East in search of better work prospects. From Ethiopia, both one of Africa's most populated and poorest countries, many try to make it to Israel. Well, now one migrant story of the dangerous journey to Israel has made its way to the silver screen. Zacharias Mesfin, who was born in Ethiopia, worked in barbershops for most of his childhood, but after deciding 12 years ago to make his way to Israel in search of better opportunities, Zacharias never could have imagined where his journey would end. Making his way across deserts in Sudan and Egypt, he was arrested by Egyptian officials and imprisoned for 2 years. Quote, "I was almost dead. At the Israeli border, I lost many friends, sisters, brothers," Zacharias said. Eventually, with the help of the United Nations, Zacharias was freed and emigrated to Canada, where he lives today with his wife and children. It was only years later that he decided to produce the film. Zacharias himself stars in the movie titled Ewira Mora Kelabi, which translates roughly into the higher spiritual power guarding the lost in Amharic. Speaking on the film, he said that illegal immigration is, quote, "very difficult and very dangerous. I want to teach that. I didn't make this documentary film by guessing. I was there," end quote. Ultimately, Zacharias hopes that the film will just be educational to others like him who are considering the brutal road of illegal migration. He said, quote, "Anyone can decide to go. The decision is up to them. But if they see this movie, I don't think they'll want to go," end quote. That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.